my quilting friends, it's Carolina Moore, your favorite sewing and quilting YouTuber, and today my baby lock Jubilant and I are gonna make our own fabric. What? You ready? Let's get started. If you are a fabric addict like me, you probably have a lot of this Art Gallery Fabrics twill tape that they use to tie their fat quarter bundles. And of course we keep it because it's perfectly good, but perfectly good for what? I don't know, except I'm gonna show you. So I'm taking these ties and I'm just misting the back, or really more soaking the back, with some water. The front has the logo on there and it's done with kind of like, it feels plasticky, so I know I don't want my iron to touch that. And then once I've given it a good soak, and you can soak them all and then iron, or soak iron, up to you. Again, on the back, I'm just gonna iron to get this flat. And this is an important step. I know we don't love pre-ironing everything. Me too, me too. But you want these nice and smooth. And then depending on the size bundles that you buy, you may have different lengths of your twill tape. So you're going to sort it into piles based on length so that you have similar lengths together. That will also be important. Now I've already gone and untied all of these, but if you're like me, you probably just pull your fat quarters out. So you may need to untie them first, and that's okay. I had to do that as well. I just did it before I started the video because nobody wants to see me sit and untie several dozen sets of twill tape. Now, another option to this would be you could dunk these in a bowl of water and then take them out and leave them to dry for a couple hours, so that they're still damp but not soaking. And that would be a way to loosen this. But basically the water is just getting into those fibers and waking them back up again. They fell asleep all crunched up, so that when we untied them, they were still asleep. The fibers were still asleep, all crunched up. So we have to wake them back up again. And that's what we're doing with the water, just giving it a good soak and waking it up. Because we need these nice and flat for what we're gonna do. Whew, okay, that took some time to get all of these pressed, made flat again. Now I'm gonna grab some fusible fleece and put it on my ironing mat. And I'm actually going to start on one end, and you can decide if it's the top or the bottom. Either's fine. And now I could fuse this now, but I have all of these pieces that I know are not going to react well with the iron. So I want to lay out these ahead of time if I can, and I want to overlap them by 1/8 of an inch. And the logos, I'm just laying these down. I'm not worried about logos lining up with one another. It's not about getting logos to line up. But I'm basically taking the next one and kissing it up to the bottom of the logo. That's basically give or take 1/8 of an inch. And I'm going to lay these down on my fusible fleece. Now I don't want to center them. If I have an extra bit, I want to have that extra bit all the way over on one side, because I might be able to, this shifted, I might be able to use that for another project in the future. If it's long enough, it might be a zipper pull, who knows what I'll come up with to use that for. And now they're starting to shift on me a little bit, so it's time to go ahead and give it a press. I'm using a heat safe paper. This is like parchment paper. It's an iron safe paper that I can put my iron on, and let me get this really hot. Now there are 3 things that matter when we are pressing on a fusible. One is the temperature, one is the time, and one is the pressure. So I want to put a lot of pressure and a lot of heat right on here, because that twill tape is not skinny. And so I want the heat and the pressure to go all the way through that twill tape to fuse that twill tape onto the fusible fleece. Now I'm using fusible fleece here because I know I'm going to use this for a bag, and I'm going to we're going to stitch this, and then it'll have like a quilted effect. Fusible fleece also has a little more body than an interfacing, but if you use a woven interfacing, that would have some body to it, and you could use a woven interfacing. Another option, if you wanted to go that route, would be you could use a piece of fabric and fuse it to, or secure it to the fabric. You could use like basting spray and use basting spray on fabric, and then line these up on your fabric and stick it down with the basting spray. I feel like you might need a lot, like a decent amount of basting spray to keep it put. Another option would be to run a line of glue, like school glue, down it and then glue it onto a piece of fabric. My worry with that would be that you wouldn't get the entire length of the twill tape. It would just be one, or the entire width of the twill tape. It would just be the length. And so the top and bottom might shift a little bit. And when you go to stitch it all together, it won't stitch together cleanly. Now for this one, I want to make sure that all my logos are the right side up. All right, this one's a little short. I'm going to not use that one. This one's also a little short, but it's not quite as short. That'll be okay. Otherwise I might not have enough to make what I want to make. All right, I've done several more. I'm going to put my heat safe paper on there, and high heat, high pressure, and a decent amount of time. I do want to make sure that those logos on there don't get all crispy though. That would be unfortunate. Nobody wants crispy logos. And if these aren't perfect, that's okay. We want it. We definitely want to make sure the 1/8 of an inch is, but if it's a little bit like, well, obviously that 1/8 of an inch isn't secured because there's no nothing securing that yet. But you don't want any gaps, because gaps will create a problem in your finished project. Okay, these line up too nicely. And while these two, I mean, like some of them are a little bit, I don't want them truly stacked. That's a little too precious. So I'm going to wait a couple until I put that one on. And I have my fusible fleece cut a bit bigger than the project I want to use it for. That's intentional, because there might be a little of this going on. I want to be able to trim this up to the finished size. I don't want to start with the finished size, because if there's any imperfections, I won't have the wiggle room to trim those up. Look how those are all stacking. There's nothing I can do about it. They're just going to stack. Oh well. Do I have one more that will fit? Okay, I'm going to break my rule from earlier and put it over on that side, as long as it's over on one side, to make that stack a bit less. This should be, yes, this should be big enough to make what I want. I'm going to do one more press. Again, high heat, high pressure, and being careful of my time. My paper, I don't know if you can see the yellowing on the paper. It is getting a little crispy. That's totally fine. I'm okay with the paper getting crispy. It's inexpensive. I could buy some more. But I don't want my ribbons, my twill tape, getting crispy. And it's not. It's looking good. All right, these ones, they were too short, so I will save those for another time. My pressing paper is starting to get pretty yellowed, but it'll probably be okay for another time, so I'll keep that as well. And we are not done yet with this. I threaded my machine with a thread color that matches my twill tape, but you could use a decorative thread and a decorative stitch if you wanted. I'm not looking for that today. I just want a zigzag stitch. So I'm going to change my stitch here on my Jubilant to a 7 stitch, and then I'm going to bring the stitch width down to, let's try a 1 and a 1. Well, that's 1 width and 1 length. And I just did a little bit of stitching so I can take a look. I need the reading glasses to be able to see what I'm doing. Okay. I want to go a little wider. So let's try let's try a 2 width. Yes, I thought that might be too wide, and I might go with a 1.5, but I like a 1 width and a 2 width and a 1 length on stitch number 7, and that's what I'm going to use for stitching these down, because the fusible fleece will hold them, but mostly temporarily. It won't last forever. Oh, and I just realized I have my 1/4" pressure foot on here. That was dangerous. I should have switched feet, but thankfully I was just doing a very narrow, a very, very narrow. So now let's try this again with the correct foot. I'm gonna go right along that edge. And the light colored ribbon on top of the light colored ribbon, or the twill tape on top of the twill tape, is not a lot of contrast to be able to see what I'm doing. And a zigzag definitely takes longer to stitch than a straight stitch. But the zigzag is going to give you more stability. There you go. So that one is stitched. You can do a straight stitch. It's not going to secure it as well. And I know I'm using this for a bag, and so I know I want it to be able to hold up over time. And the zigzag is what I'm going to need to have it hold up over time. I did a similar project before where I just did straight stitches, and some of it was like 98% successful, but that other 2% it started pulling apart. So I want the zigzag. And I maybe could have gotten away with a longer zigzag. I just know that I really want this fabric to last. You know, if you're gonna make your own fabric, you want it to last forever, right? That's looking so cool. Just these, they're getting like quilted down by the stitching because the stitching is going all the way through, making it super secure. This is gonna look so great on my bag. I'm so excited. So I'm just gonna keep this up. I'm gonna go stitch all the way down all of them, and then I'll have my fabric that I made, right? All right, friends, it is all done and it looks super legit. It looks so good. I left the rest of this down here just in case it wasn't long enough for the project I have in mind. I'm pretty sure it is, but I can still add more if I need, or if I need a little less, then I have a couple rows started for adding a little more on here if I want. But yeah. Oh, it looks, yeah. It looks really good. All right, friends, if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions or comments, leave those down below. Make sure you are subscribed to this channel, and hit that share button. Grab the link and share this with friends who might want to make their own fabric out of fabulous Art Gallery fabric twill tape. And that's it for today, my friends. I'll see you right here real soon. Bye for now.